Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to TLDChat. And somebody just told me, what? It's Arbor Day. Anthony, what the heck is Arbor Day? Are you going to give us an educational moment on Video Friday about what Arbor Day is? But it must be a great day because for it to land on Video Friday, it must be awesome. Anyways, welcome, everybody. Welcome to Video Friday. Welcome to TLDChat. For those of you that might be watching this on video after the fact, and maybe you've never even hung out with us before or even heard about what it is that we do here. TLDC started out as a conference in 2016, and now it's become much more than that. A community, a chat, and more things that begin with the letter C to be announced in the future. But we are the training, learning, and development community. And we like to hang out and talk shop and encourage each other and build our careers and network and get to know each other and really just get better at the work we do. And we like, as we say, as we have on the website, we like to help you get the work done and not just talk too much about the philosophies and the methodologies of what we do and why we do it, but to also just embrace the actual tactical work of getting the work done. And that work isn't always about tools and technologies. Sometimes it's about battling politics within the workplace. Sometimes it's about figuring out who your IT guy is and knowing that you did know your IT department. There are all these other elements of the work that we do within training and learning and development that I don't think get discussed hardly enough, and they are the most important parts of our job that help us get the work done. So that's why we're here. That's why we like to talk about things like management leadership development, like we did yesterday with Bill Harrison. We're actually going to have him back on because he was going to be on with our good friend Michelle Fanfarillo, but she fell ill at the last minute, and so we were unable to have them both, but we will have them both on. They make a great dynamic duo when it comes to management leadership stuff. So it's always fantastic to have them. And hello to Matthew Pierce. Thanks for jumping in, our great and wonderful TechSmith group. Thanks for being here. Matt, I'm going to actually probably bring you into a video window here shortly, but Sam's not going to be here today, but he has set up a wonderful, most wonderful guest for us today. Diana Howles is here today. And before I bring her on the screen here and we start talking video and how you can improve your presence on video, I just want to throw out a couple extra things that you all know about that you're probably getting tired of hearing me say, but TLDC 18 is coming up, and last week of January. Actually, I don't have to say that anymore. Now I can officially tell you that January 29 and 30 are the two official days for TLDC 18 to be held in Phoenix, Arizona at a very, very cool new place in downtown Phoenix called Galvanize. It's a learning community, and it is very, very cool. I like to call it geek chic. It's in the warehouse district, the newly renovated warehouse district of downtown Phoenix. And we are super psyched to have a different type of facility available to us to do an event, and it is going to change things significantly. None of that bad Wi-Fi stuff you get at conference centers, at hotels that say they're going to give you some Wi-Fi, but then it never really works quite the way you want. None of that. This place has more bandwidth than they know what to do with, and there is not a chance at all that we could use all the bandwidth or that it will slow down and not work for us. So we will have more than enough bandwidth to do some cool stuff, whether it's demos. We could do some live streaming while we're there. There's just a lot of things, a lot of doors that open for us when we go into a location like that that can actually support a technical event at that scale. So we're very psyched about that. And there's lots of other benefits too, but that's the one that always pops to mind for me. So Very, very, very excited about that. And also, you know what? We just can't keep doing this without a little bit of help from you guys. And we are working really hard on figuring out some sort of model that is beneficial to everybody so that we can keep TLDC, the TLD chat up and running. The infrastructure to run this, it's not super expensive, right? It's a few dollars, but it is coming out of the TLDC fund and out of our pockets. And so we always just like to ask now, now that the Crowdcast has this little contribution feature, if you'd be interested in throwing us a few bucks, we certainly would appreciate that. And at some point we will figure out a way to monetize this a little bit more officially, but for now we'd like to just see if through contributions we can at least get the infrastructure costs covered before we move on to something that might be a little bit more official, if you will. So if you have the desire and the capability at this point, I know some of you have been asking about PayPal and wanting PayPal payments, the ability to use PayPal, and we're going to try to set something like that up on the tldc.us website. But for now, we're not there yet. So we're still actually working really hard. Luis, actually, I should say, is working really hard at getting the registration for the event, that website up and going. So keeping our fingers crossed, hoping to have that actually live today. That may or may not happen, but we're definitely looking forward to it. And so, we're definitely working hard at it. And wow, we've got our numbers up pretty darn high. So I think we should just get right into this. And I will introduce Diana Howles, who is our guest today. Hello, Diana.
Hello.
How you doing today?
Everyone. Good. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, fantastic. So tell us a little bit about Howles and Associates.
Yeah, so what we do is we help folks design messaging for video. So whether it's persuasive or informative, or they just want to communicate to their employees, whatever it is, we help them be more effective on camera. So it might be working with their message design. It might be helping them be more comfortable on camera, or it could even be looking at staging and helping to stage the background of their video, or even making sure their technical stage is aligned and their audio is working well, and all of those kind of technical elements that help everything work well. So we provide critiques to videos that folks produce. We help with scripting services, either editing your script if you already have one, or helping you write your script. And then we do live video coaching. So we use Zoom, or we use Skype sometimes as well. Yeah, and so we actually rehearse with folks virtually. So you can be anywhere in the world, and we can still work with you across, the online technology. So those are some of the things we do. Kind of, we call it 3 big C's. So coaching, consulting, and then critiques as well.
Ah, good. That makes it easy to remember.
I know, the nice 3 C's, right? But we're not in Okemos, Michigan, like Matt Pierce was. So we're in Madison. We're in Madison, Wisconsin. It's not as fun to say. Okemos just sounds better, right?
Yeah, right.
But we're known for James Madison. So.
Oh, well.
Do you know what president he was? Do you know what number he was?
Oh, man. Now, you can't start asking me like historical questions.
Yeah, I know. Well, maybe someone knows. Oh,
yeah, maybe somebody in the audience knows. Don't Google it.
Somebody must know who James Madison, what number president was he? But that's what our town is named after, so.
Somebody must need the Debbie snacks, yeah.
Good thought, Michael. I think his daughter might have inspired those snacks. Well, he was actually, does anyone know? He actually was, he's the snack guy. He was actually the 4th president.
Ah, I knew it was
now
early
we all
days
know.
For sure. So, all right. Yes. Well, you see, you come to TLD chat and you learn something new every day, people. This is why we're here.
Well, not only that, but we learned what Arbor Day is thanks to Anthony, right? So
yeah.
It's all about trees. Today is the day we appreciate trees.
Yeah, fun never stops. The
I
fun
know.
never stops for Video Friday. So, so let's talk a little bit about one of these areas of video. We talk a lot about the geek stuff, right? We talk a lot about the tech and all of that, and this is fun because there's that other side, right? There's setting up your camera. There's the tech. There's a microphone. There's the audio, but then there's actually being on camera. What are some tips that you offer folks right out the chute that helps?
Yeah.
Being on the camera. Like, what am I doing wrong?
What are we all doing wrong, right? Because there's always things to learn. But I think the first thing is it feels so different to be looking at this cold lens, right? That's very unnatural and awkward. And what we find over and over again is, well, and all of our viewers today know well who are in video, it's just practice. You just, over time, you get more comfortable, right? So what I always tell clients too is, when you shoot that video, and whether that's a training video or a corporate video, or as you and I were talking, sometimes we have clients where the executive wants to send a message to employees, and it's such a large organization, the employees don't even see that executive, and that executive doesn't see them. And so video is a way to show personality and all of that. But what you can do is you think about just practicing and being comfortable. And then it's the opposite of a magician. So, like a magician is trying to distract the audience so they miss what you don't want them to see in terms of the magic. But with video, it's like we are all about avoiding distraction. So when you're on camera, you're thinking about, are my clothes, the colors of my clothes clashing with the background? Am I moving too quickly that's creating a distraction? Do I have a plant growing out of my head that needs to be removed? Is my audio creating static and ambient, noise that I need to fix? So all of those things take away from us noticing the message. And so we work a lot with removing distraction instead of creating distraction.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's always a good tip. The hardest thing I've found, so like when we're doing this, right, it's like, I feel like I want to look at you when you're talking, because that's just how we're taught to communicate with people, right?
Right.
But I'm cognizant of the fact that when I'm actually looking at you, at your face, at what you guys see is me looking down at something else. And so to have to look up slightly and make sure that I'm looking into the lens of the camera is kind of awkward, because your natural state is, oh, I see this face, it's talking to me, it's just below where I'm looking, and I desperately want to look down, but I know not to. And I feel like I'm constantly fighting that.
I know. And so, we just tell people, try to get that camera lens as close as you can, so you move that computer up, you sit on pillows, whatever you can to just sort of raise yourself up, because it does feel disconnected, right? So when I'm looking off, we see that in normal interpersonal interactions, when I'm looking off, it just feels really disconnected. So it's all about connection. It's always about connection, whether it's face-to-face or virtual, it's still about connecting, right? And so eye contact is a great way to do that. Yeah.
And it's just harder. I like to tell people too that this is a different kind of video format. One, because of that, right? But it's also because it's more informal, and you can have multiple people on. So this particular platform only allows up to 4 video windows at a time. But when we were using Blab last year, before it went under, you could have 10, or more people on the screen, and so that got kind of hectic. But I think a lot of what people need to figure out, because there are those situations, especially interview situations, right, where you don't want people looking right at the camera, right? You want to be focused on the interviewer, and you're trying to ignore all of the studio stuff that's going on around you.
Right.
Is that something that that people are struggling with, or are those two different types of coaching that you do? Like, are you going to an interview in a studio? Okay, we need to teach you this. Are you going to be doing something on like WebEx or Zoom or something else? Okay, now there's some different things. Like, what are the main things that separates that?
Yeah, I think there's some carryover. You know, there's certainly things that apply to the studio and then also WebEx just for general presence and good quality, technical quality, and then always being aware of what's in the frame and what's behind me. But Shannon had a good thought here. She was saying she has a dot next to the lens. Yeah, as Shannon was saying, she has a dot by the camera lens to remember to look at it. So, you know, these little tricks that we can do to remind ourselves what's really happening. I've had good success with my clients to remind them of somebody they know. It has to be somebody that they actually have a relationship with, is standing right there in front of the camera, because if there's nobody else in the room, you forget you're talking to people, and it comes across like you forget you're talking to people. So those are great tips, you know, like Shannon was saying. But I would say, if, you know, on WebEx, you've probably heard horror stories. Many of you who are attending today have probably experienced or heard horror stories, but, you know, where I think there's this, we forget what's in the frame. So where is the camera pointing? And so I've heard of folks who don't know they're on camera, and then they're scratching their belly and that shirt's coming up, and pretty soon everybody sees the their whole abdomen, you know, and then they go, oh my gosh, I'm on camera. So it's like this new awareness we have to learn how to be on video. And it's sort of like, you know, when you go to the Grand Canyon, you have this great landscape, and, you know, we have obviously this great peripheral vision, but when you're looking in a camera frame, because there's a boundary, right? So right now everyone sees there's this frame boundary. It draws our attention to everything in the frame. And so it's everything counts, you know, what's in the frame. So for example, Brent, you have the training and learning whiteboard behind you. So that's right, that's relevant to your topic. You don't have anything that's conflicting in terms of background information. I have a closet behind me. Sometimes it's good to have depth behind you because it makes the subject sort of jump out. But those are things to think about. And it's a new way to think. We've never had to worry so much about backdrop before.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And we also have never really had to worry about having a chat room before.
Yeah.
Right, which is nice. You and I were talking about that earlier. This is another sort of a new thing with the new tech, right? And so I have my wonderful friend Craig in there reminding me that, hey, there's questions in, and I tell him to do this, folks. So don't think you don't think he's being pushy. This is our agreement. This is how we're going to do this. So, so he's got a great question lined up here in the Q&A. He says, how, and I will click start answering so people can link to it right away. How do you handle the differences between a live video with chat and producing a video chat or a vlog?
Yeah. So yeah, in live video, you know, you always have backup plans because you're going live. And so you want to make sure that you have, if something goes down, you have something ready to back up to it. I have, for example, I have a Yeti mic. Matt Pierce was talking about microphones last week, I think, right? So I got a Yeti today, Mike, or Matt, and he'll have to tell us the results of that microphone test, by the way, right? Is he
yeah, we're
still
waiting for that, man. Maybe end here we'll have him jump on if he's got some early results for us.
We want to hear, because it's so needed. It's so needed in the industry because audio is so tricky, you know, and it's complex. But yeah, so if my Yeti mic goes down, I have a backup mic standing by. And, you know, you want to make sure you get on early and test everything with the live feeds. It's a little easier with recorded video, right? Because you can do takes and you can cut and you have a little more freedom. So that's a little easier to kind of work through. But people still can be really nervous, even if it's not live video, if you're still recording video, because it feels really kind of scary, right? So what we always tell clients is, you know, it doesn't have to be linear. We have this feeling because we're in a literate society where we, you know, left to right and all our streets are numbered and all of that we have to go in order. But when you shoot, I always tell folks that first scene in your video or that first, you know, opening, shoot that last, because you warm up in the process. So you can even start with the middle of your script, or you can start shooting the end of your script. And then, because that beginning needs to be powerful, you need to wow people. And it's the first impressions, right? And if we look at video analytics, we know people drop really quickly in those first 30 seconds sometimes. So it has to be powerful. So yeah, shoot that scene last when you're more comfortable, you're warmed up. We see a lot of good success with that.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I hadn't even thought of that before, but it makes a whole lot of sense, because when I first turn on or hit the go live button or the record button when I'm doing other stuff, I know I feel really kind of I'm not really fully on my game, but after about 10 minutes of just yakking, I all of a sudden feel like, all right, now I know what I want to say.
Yeah, well, right. Yeah. Yeah. And if you're just doing that, or you're scripting, or you just have notes with you. And as some of you are saying too, like most people that are in video and produce, we know that we shoot on linear most of the time anyway, but sometimes clients who aren't used to doing video and haven't done video before that we're working with, and they have a script and, you know, they write it and what they want to communicate, what they want to get across. And so that's new for them to think about, oh, I can shoot that differently, and I can shoot that at a different time. Yeah. And I think another thing too, in terms of video scripting, is we sometimes script out what we think we want to communicate, but it really should be flipped. So it's all about the viewer, what the viewer wants, and what the viewer could want. So it's a user design thinking kind of switch that I think we forget about in scripting too, but really important in video. What do they want to hear? What do they need? And how do I hook them right in the beginning?
Exactly. Well, let's talk about that. It's a great segue. So let's talk a little bit about scripting. What do you have some good tips for, you know, do your clients come in and say, hey, this is kind of what I want to say, can you guys write something? Or do you coach them on how to write it and then let them give you a draft and then you help them revise it? How does that work?
Yeah, I would say more the first one. So usually they have they know what they want. They know they have a subject matter expert, and they know basically the meat of what they want to communicate. So it's just sort of written out, and they say, what do you think? So we just kind of parse it up, and we make sure there's transitions. We make sure there's a hook in the beginning. We make sure that length is important. You know, kind of what we're seeing is that it's interesting. We'll see more video analytics as it comes out. But a lot of times, if people are watching video on like a desktop or computer, we're starting to see them watch longer. If they're watching on a tablet, it's sort of middle of the road. And if they're watching on a smartphone, they watch for shorter periods of time. So it's like more mobile the device or the medium you're watching your video, the shorter you watch. Not necessarily, there are exceptions, but we know that millennials are only watching video on their phones, right? So if they're most of the workforce, or for 50% of the workforce, we need to think about how they're watching video. So keeping it short is important for scripting too. And, you know, I guess over the years, we've seen it came out 10 minutes, 6 minutes, 4 minutes. There's micro video folks who say, 60 seconds, 90 seconds. We have that probably on our viewership today. We're all over the board, right? But where we're really starting to see the sweet spot is kind of 3 minutes or less. That's where I'm seeing attention spans. Sometimes viewers are even saying, our clients are saying to us, 4 minutes, it's a little long. That feels a little long. So, in the scripting too, a lot of it is cutting. We're cutting, and we're being really concise and to the point, because, it's hard to watch tangents.
Yeah. So we had a great tip from a filmmaker that was actually one of our first guests on the show. His name was Mike Chesworth. He did he went to the airport and just went live streaming on Facebook and asked all of his Facebook friends to tell him where he should go on vacation.
Oh, wow.
And
where did they say?
They sent him to Bali. So awesome. He walked right up to the desk and said, I'd like a round trip to Bali, please. And they said, our next flight doesn't leave until tomorrow. So he was able that gave him some time to run out to the store and buy a new GoPro and get some new tech and everything and prep a little bit. So I had him on just because I thought the idea was cool, right? It was video streaming. He learned a lot. We always talk about experiences in L&D and how having experiences are important. And so I thought it was good. But anyways, he also has a lot of different connections, strong connections in the social media world, and gets all the data and whatnot. And he's been doing some work with Pinterest. And one of the data points that they were telling him was that in their data that they're seeing, instructional videos are actually being watched longer. So the idea that really, really, really short videos, you have to be really short because nobody's watching, really from the Pinterest's perspective and from their data, they're seeing exactly the opposite. Other regular standard sort of informational sort of videos, people really do have short attention spans. But when it comes to the instructional videos, they are willing to sit and watch all of the instruction, no matter how much it takes. And I thought that was fascinating because, like you, I mean, I've heard from everybody that, that's out there talking about micro learning and everything. And it has to be, this long or that long, or don't go, over that. It just seems to depend on the platform and what you're trying to convey.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too is the design, right? So when we watch, all of us, everyone here, and you and I, and Sam Rogers, God bless him wherever he is, right? We miss him today. We didn't have that music opening, we didn't have the beatbox thing.
Yeah, right. He's video coaching today.
I know. You should
be voice coaching. Yeah.
You should be cross-functional trained. You should pick up the beatbox when he's missing, right? Where's the song, Brett?
You don't want me beatboxing.
We need the song. We should write one for Sam later when this is over. So the idea is that all of us here today, and Sam, we would all sit through a Star Wars movie, no problem, right? Why? Because it keeps us on our right, on the edge of our seat, and it's always moves, it's dynamic, and there's always change and all that. And it's a story. There's a lot of reasons. But we would also all sit through and watch an 18-minute TED Talk if it was a topic that interested us. So it's not so much attention span. If we are hooked and interested, we will. But the bottom line is, to the point, short, concise, as much as you can is still useful. Yeah.
I mean, just right. Not having a lot of extra superfluous stuff.
Yeah.
When you're creating those videos, I think helps a lot. So we got another question in the Q&A, and we're going to go ahead and answer this question, and then I'll do my usual 30-minute break. All right, everybody. So we'll, or maybe I should tease this question. Now let's answer it. Let's go for it. So what about learner multitasking? And for scripting, do you write for the ear? In quotes. Let's start with the first one, learner multitasking.
Yeah. Well, we know that happens, right, in web conferencing a lot. We've seen that when webinars first came out. I remember using Placeware back in 2000, and we didn't have a lot of tools at our disposal back then. We didn't have a lot of interactivity. I remember we could do audio breakout rooms, but it was just audio. So everyone had to type in a certain number. Remember that, and press pound. And you were only in breakout rooms through audio only. But now with WebEx and Adobe Connect, and we have these great video audio breakout rooms. We can do whiteboards. We can do chat queues. We can do so much. And so there is a way to still, with video, for example, in web conferencing, to still keep people interactive and still keep them engaged. And so we're always battling that with multitasking. But I think it's about engaging the audience. And so asking questions and involving them. And when we do video with Adobe Connect, we're always on that whiteboard. We're always having people contribute on the whiteboard, and they love it because it's anonymous, so it's sort of like nobody knows who I am when I'm contributing a comment on the whiteboard. So there are ways to make it more engaging so that we're working against that multitasking. What thoughts do you have? I'd like to throw it out to the group too. What thoughts have you used for sort of dealing with the multitasking learner?
Yeah, how about that, guys? What do you think?
They can think about that. Maybe they think about that while we address the second one. Should we do that?
Yeah, scripting. So for scripting, do you write for the ear?
Yeah, it's a great question. So you want to write for the medium in which it will be delivered. So when you think about video, it is auditory. It is it's sort of like the oral medium. So remember, back before we had literacy and before we were writing, it was a very oral medium. So you delivered something that was gone. And when you look at video, it's kind of coming back to that again. It's really kind of an oral medium. The difference is now we can document it in permanent form. So this video today can live on for, hopefully not, but for generations in a permanent form. So it's very, very different than the written form. But so when you're scripting, you definitely want to speak it out loud, and you'll hear differences, because the way we writing is naturally, organically very formal, and speaking is more informal. So that's the trick, because if you're actually scripting yours out, and maybe you don't want to script, you want to keep it ad lib, which is great. But when you're scripting it out, we tend to write more formally, like therefore and so, consequently, and we use these big words that you would never use orally. So when you read your script out loud, you catch all that and you go, oh, out, cut it out. And you can also hear when it sounds more natural and more conversational. So always read your script out loud to test that. Yeah.
Yes, that applies to everyone except for Anthony.
Anthony, I saw that. Yeah. Self-proclaimed.
Yes, you
self-proclaimed.
What would we do without you? Hey, so we're at the 30-minute mark, Diana. So what I normally like to do is just take a quick break and I'll ramble on about some random stuff. And that gives you a chance to interact in the chat a little bit, maybe, and maybe scroll back if you need to pick up some questions that maybe we missed.
Sounds good.
And then we'll jump right back into this. All righty.
All right. Sounds great.
Yeah, I'll give you a chance to do that. I think what I'll do is I'll put this video back up here. But hey, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. This has been fantastic video Friday so far. We've got 30 minutes left, which is all sorts of time to cover fun, engaging new material. Wow, and I'm losing my voice. Don't forget to hit that share button. See that little share link right there underneath your video. Click that, send it to your Facebook friends, your LinkedIn friends, your Twitter friends or whatnot, and just say, hey, you know what? We're having this killer conversation about how to improve how you do live video or recorded video, because it's such a huge, important part of the future, not only of what we do, but just in general. Everybody at some point is going to be doing some sort of video or live video. And I think this applies to everybody across the board. But for us in particular, as training and learning and development professionals, we do need to know it a little bit more than most and be able to coach the people that we're videotaping and be able to lead by example in the businesses that we work in and in basically the work that we do. So great conversation going on. Invite all your friends to catch the last 30 minutes. I will tease 2 giveaways today. Matt, I think we're going to be doing another Camtasia giveaway. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but Diana also has a promotional discount to give away for something special she has coming up that we will talk about. So all sorts of good stuff coming your way for the next 30 minutes. So again, if your friends are missing out, well, tell them not to. Tell them to come hang out with us. And again, TLDC 18 coming up in Phoenix. And let me see if I can get back to the screen share and we can do it like this. There we go. Hit up TLDC.us and the TLDC conference coming up in Phoenix at Galvanize, January 29th and 30th. So like I mentioned early when we first started the show this morning, the 29th and 30th are going to be the official days for TLDC, but there may be a chance that we put something on the front end or the back end of that. So you might want to just block your calendars out for that weekend before and maybe a day or two afterwards, if for no other reason than you want to hang out in Phoenix because it's just beautiful that time of year. But we might also be tacking on some value-added content to those days, either the front end or the back end. You just never know. I mean, we're very fluid. We're very open to new ideas when it comes to producing this event. So 2 official days, the 29th and the 30th, but you will definitely want to just stay connected with us as we might be adding some really interesting additional content. So with that, I will say take a chance and an opportunity to go to tldc.us and get signed up for the newsletter. And don't give us a fake email, because then you're never going to look at it and you're never going to get the fantastic content and information about upcoming events. So let us know. And by the way, that's the only way that you're going to be able to win some of the cool stuff that we give away on TLDChat. So be signed up for the newsletter and hang out with us here on TLDChat, and we will match the 2 up. And if your name is drawn as a winner, we will also make sure that you're signed up for the newsletter. And if you're in both areas, then bingo, you're the winner. But if not, we have to move on to the next person. So make sure your name and email matches up in both places, and we will make sure that you're a winner. And speaking of winners, we just had one of our most recent Camtasia winners pop in from the UK, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Lisa Minogue White. Good to see you. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for representing the UK. I haven't seen Marco yet, so it looks like you're it. But, thank you very much. We are, Canada is always being represented. That's for sure. But always fun to see the UK in the house. So I think with that, I think I've covered most of that fun stuff. And we will get back to what it is that we're here to finally talk about. So we've got more questions queued up in the Q&A. Oh, and I even forgot to click the done answering on that one. We got one new question in the Q&A, but I've got a particular question I want to hit up and ask you as we move forward. And
Sure.
And I don't, Matt, let me know, because I'd like to get Matt in here to ask some questions as well before we end. But so don't leave early, Matt. Hang out. But so
too bad we can't hook in Sam, right? Because I think he's in Yosemite today, right? With trees for Arbor Day. A lot of trees in Yosemite. Yeah.
I should have told him that he should just dial in from his camp no matter what he's doing, and let all of his attendees hang out with us too.
That's right, on location. Why not?
Part of the camp, right?
Yeah, celebrate Arbor Day, right?
Yeah. He normally does that. He actually went live from, where did he go live from, guys? From Learning Solutions, I think he was at recently. And
cool.
And Tom Spiglanen and Katie was there too. All three of them went live live from location. So that is the other cool thing about these particular tools, is that we can make that happen. But
anywhere, yes, anywhere.
So my question is this. So there's all these new platforms coming out, and especially on mobile, right? We touched on mobile from a viewing perspective, but we now have the ability through Snapchat, through Instagram, through Facebook Live, all of these social platforms that we're already using, they all now have this sort of live streaming capability. Are you guys branching out into that area and coaching people on how to do that? Or is that not really the same thing, or an area you're getting into?
Yeah, not so much for us. So we do more the videos that have a strategic message. I think when it's just informal and just hanging out, that's very different. Like we talked about that before too. Yeah. So it depends on what your goal is, what your objective is, and are you selling a product, or is it just for fun? Is it just recreational? And so so we're more on the sort of the corporate side, I guess. Videos, but I've heard Facebook executives say that in several years they think that Facebook may be entirely all video. So, we see the momentum of the medium, and we see how it's growing, will continue to grow. So it'll be fun to see, where it takes us.
Yeah, well, I think that pro stuff is definitely going to go there. I think it starts off kind of as informal, but I've seen some really, really well produced, Facebook live streams and other live streams as well. And I just bring that up to you just because I know some other production houses that I'm aware of that are starting to focus more and more on that's kind of their niche, that they'll do like a Facebook Live. They've kind of figured out what the tools and the connectivity is and kind of how all that stuff works. And so they're definitely moving in that direction. But really, I guess it just ends up being just another channel to deliver the video. A lot of what you're talking about with how you present yourself and those skills will carry over, because to the person in front of the camera, it really ends up being kind of the same thing at the end of the day.
Yeah. And, there's we talk about video literacy. So, we all learned, right, how to read. And with video too, it's learning how to be on camera, which is very different from what we're used to with, the in-person interaction. So one example of that would be movement. We think when we talk to each other, I'll just bring my hands in here. We use our hands a lot, but on camera, when you have hands constantly in, out, in, as you can see, eventually you just start paying attention to that quick movement. We also move really quickly in person. And, you know, video is frames per second. So even with 4K video, you're still, you know, you have better pixels, but more pixels. But yeah, it's just, so it can be really distracting. So it's learning that, what does that look like to the viewer? I see a lot of folks, sometimes they'll not intentionally, because when you work in person, it's normal, but they'll cover their mouth or their eyes when they're talking, and they don't realize it. And they're moving really fast too. So you see the blurs. So all of that creates a distraction. So we tell the clients, you know, keep the gestures, like imagine an invisible wall kind of from chin below. And when you gesture, you're keeping it down here, because where do people look when we want to connect? It's eyes and mouth. And so you'll see that in advertising too. We're drawn to faces. And we're drawn to the eyes and the mouth. So you don't want to cover that, because that could be a distraction. So movement on camera is slower, and people don't realize that. But if you're going to gesture, you can gesture, but you see when I go like this, it's just really fast and it's blurry. So it's just, you move slower. And so it's kind of that's one example of video literacy, learning how to be on frame.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I find myself gesturing, and I want people to see the gesture I'm making, but I always do it outside the frame.
Yeah.
And then I look up and I realize, wait, they can't see that I'm saying it's this big.
Yeah, yeah.
or it's this small.
Right, exactly. It's all about what's in the frame. So it doesn't really matter. Somebody was talking about pants. I had a client, we finished coaching an attorney. It was an attorney, and he was working on a presentation for a video. And then afterwards he says, you know, you can only see him from kind of his waist up. And afterwards he says, can I put my pants on now? And we're all like, what? But you know, he knows that it doesn't matter. It's just all about what's in the frame. He's joking with us, of course, but
yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's just, so realizing, okay, where am I going to be, you know, in film school, because I studied film screen acting in Chicago. And, you know, the first thing you ask is how big is the frame? Because if you know it's a medium shot or a close shot, you know how to fill the frame, right? And so in video too, it's important to know how big is that frame for me for the shot you're going to be doing.
Right. Well, it's always nice to have that monitor right on the ground or wherever. So when they're framing up the shot, you can kind of see what they're doing, so you can react accordingly and whatnot, but then not get distracted by it as that person on the stage or whatever.
That's right.
You're trying to do. You know, there was I don't know if it was a Kickstarter or if it was an actual product that somebody had made a bib. They called it like the video bib or something like that. Maybe somebody can Google it, where it was literally a thing that you just pulled over your head really fast, and it was the top part of a suit and a shirt and a tie. And but it only went to like just your waist. So whenever if you were just like hanging out and all of a sudden you had to go live on a webinar or something, you could just grab it and throw it on, and it would look like you had a shirt and full suit on, but really it was just, you know, just what was in the frame was the suit. The rest was whatever else you were wearing. Yeah.
Well, you know, they're starting to use, maybe some of our viewers today have done this already, but starting to use video for interviews, right? So I've heard about, you know, where you could put that top suit on, I suppose, for your video interview. But again, it's remembering what's in the frame at all times, what's being, you know, cast. Like I did a webinar once I was teaching the webinar, but somebody jumped on and didn't know they were on camera. And then you saw his administrative assistant come in, and she was trying to figure out how to turn it off, you know, and they were trying to figure out, it's like learning the tools, you know, it takes a bit to learn the tools first, and then you can actually learn. But yeah, so the video interview, this interviewee used it on the camera on his laptop, and the interview, I was told, went well. The interviewer told me this later, but then at the end of the interview, the candidate forgot what's on camera, closed kind of the laptop halfway, and the interviewers were still on camera. And so it was now sort of projected downward on his body. And so the interviewers were like, oh, yeah. So it's like, turn off the camera when you're done, and then you close the lid. And you're just thinking about all of those kind of little things.
Yeah, it's all the little things like that.
It's the little things, yeah.
It's funny that I'm sure you saw that viral video that went around of that BBC reporter when his kids came strolling into the scene behind him.
Yeah,
it's kind of that, right? Make sure that everything outside of your environment knows that you're live, just in case.
Just in case, yeah, just in case. I think, And I think another thing we see too is just learning, again, video literacy, learning how video works, learning how to match kind of what you're wearing to being sensitive to the background. So sometimes I'll see people like in a black background behind them, and then they're wearing like a black shirt. And so they sort of disappear, right? So it looks like a talking head. Or, wearing all white. So that's going to reflect more light and you're going to look like you're shining or you're, from heaven or something. So, and then of course the stripes, when people wear, either horizontal or vertical. Yeah. You like
Guilty.
ties.
I do that all the time.
Yeah. And I see that a lot with guys with ties. It's hard not to find a tie without wavy, but it makes it wavy on camera. Right. So then again, you have that, the visual distraction. So, just keeping the clothing choices, like you have a good blue there. I have a blue today. Those blues and grays and greens and golds and, all those work well. Solid colors, work best on camera.
Yeah, tend to be the best. I don't, the stripes don't seem to matter too much anymore with HD and everything, right? But what I've found is that when I'm wearing my striped shirts, when I'm looking at the main screen and it's full screen, it looks great. But as you've noticed, as you scroll down watching a crowdcast, it will minimize the video and then kind of throw it up into the upper right corner.
Yeah.
When it does that, that's when you start getting the lines starting to freak out. I think it was Michael in our chat a couple of weeks ago that was like, oh no, Brent's shirt's going to throw me into a seizure.
Yes, I know. Wavy, really wavy here. Yeah.
So we've got a question here. I'm going to, let's answer this question real quick. And then I'm going to have Matt jump in. And the question is, do you let the talent change script on the fly? And if so, is there a limit that you hold them to? So what kind of flexibility do you give them?
Lots of flexibility. It's all about the talent being comfortable. That's a great question. So yeah, if folks come with a script and they find, it's always better just to speak from the heart. So a lot of times you do the work, the pre-work of writing out a script just so that you know in your head where you're going to go and what you're going to talk about. But if you can do it without the script, if you just know kind of where you're going and you have kind of your main points memorized and you can go off script, that can be better, right? Because it just needs to sound very natural, very conversational, and it has to be real and believable and genuine, all of that. So yeah, if they can do a better job of speaking genuinely, just not doing it off script, we definitely go with that.
Yeah. Keep them. Don't let them go off the rails, but let them use their own voice, right?
Yeah.
And pick the words that are most comfortable to them, because I think your audience picks up on somebody reading a script when it's really not the way they would actually say it. So if you can get them to at least convey the content and the feeling of the content in their own manner, I think that always ends up being the best shot that you end up taking anyways, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we can always tell when someone is reading a script, we just zone out completely. It's so boring, so dull. So like we can tell. And so just really, sometimes even that last take is the best take because they're so familiar with it now that they can kind of do it themselves. Or like I said, if somebody is able to go off script or not even use a script and just generally hit the concepts, then we'll go with that because it's going to be more real and that's going to help give them that connection. Yeah.
As long as you hit those bullet points of what they really wanted to get across, then whatever they like is it, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Go with.
I see Anthony. Anthony says he's Italian, so his hands do what the hands do. That's right. I was in Verona, Italy once, and everyone there, we had like 5 people in Verona, Italy, and they're all using their hands all the time, which is great. Yeah.
Hey,
Hi,
we got
Matt.
Matt Pierce on. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Hey, Matt.
Can you guys hear me?
How did the microphone study go?
Can you first of all, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm testing a new microphone. Let me just, here it is.
Which one you got there?
This is the SE2200. It is an XLR microphone. It's going through a mixer, so because it's a condenser mic that needs power. This is the microphone so far that is at the top of my list of things that
Everyone
are doing well.
write that down. Awesome.
Hey, listen, before I let you ask questions or we continue this conversation, I have one other thing that I forgot there's lots of new faces on here today, and it's fantastic. So welcome, everybody. All of you that I know that I haven't seen in a while, welcome. And some of the new names that are in here that I may have never met before, welcome. And if everybody would jump into the chat and tell us, use the last 10 minutes to introduce yourself, tell us what you do and where you're at. It'll help everybody get to know each other better and help build our community, and be sure to reach out to our new folks and make them feel comfortable and at home. Thanks much, everybody. Okay.
Here's my mic, Matt.
Ah, yes, it looks great.
Does it look great? But like, as you know, Brent, too, like when I turn so that you can tell the audio takes a hit. So you really just have to make sure that, you're. So
on the Yeti, though, you should have switches on the back, and you can change the polar pattern. So you could get a broader, if you have that tendency to move. I don't know how this one's doing with it being
I've noticed I don't use those broad settings because then
the road noise, right?
Too much, right? Yep. So
yeah, absolutely.
I like to stick with the upside down heart.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
The cardioid.
Cardioid.
Okay.
Yeah. It's good for podcasts too. Yeah.
Absolutely. So this is the preliminary. We actually ended up testing 18 different microphones. Some of them are like we just found them around the office. What was that, Brent?
Found them around the office.
Did you get any of the Bumblebee stuff?
No, nothing yet. I mean, we'll probably do this again, but we did like one of those mics is like my MacBook Pro. One's a PC Lenovo built-in mic, so you can hear that. We want to go the kind of the full spectrum. See, I'm using my hands. I gotta watch my little window.
Yeah. Just use one. One hand.
The other one, we tested an Amazon like basics cheap headset microphone, a Logitech headphone. Couple different, like 2 different lapel microphones. So I mean, it's a wide spectrum of microphones, and some of them performed pretty poorly, and some of them did okay, and a few of them were like, wow, that's pretty good. Although I think all of them you'd still have to go in and do some processing if you want to really kind of bring up the kind of the quality level, get rid of a little bit of noise, add a little, like we did 2, a male and female voice. And like on this particular microphone, we feel like we needed to add some low end signal to the female voice in particular. And that can be done on a mixer board, or you can do it in post. But it's interesting. She does a lot of voiceover work for us. And she's like, yeah, it doesn't have a nice kind of low end to it that one of our other microphones does. So something to look at.
But you like that one that you're using.
Yeah,
I do like.
Sounds good.
I really do like the quality. Just like out of the, like we did something where we're like, we're not going to change all the settings. We're going to have kind of try to get consistent settings across the microphones, and out of the box, plug it in mid-range kind of audio input. So this is probably like, if you look at your sound level, it's like a 70 versus like, I didn't put it up all the way up to 100. Kind of out of the box, I think it gave overall really good quality. I think for male voices, actually, it does even better. I think it takes in the kind of the low end frequency better. Like I was talking about with our female voiceover talent, she has less bass in her voice, and so we need to add a little bit of that just to give it a more kind of full, rich sound. So a little bit different, but I like it. But it's also $300. The Yeti's $100, so there's a trade-off there.
Yeah. Are you publishing your whole results studies somewhere? Or?
Yeah, on the TechSmith blog, so blogs.techsmith.com. Around the beginning of June, it's gonna have all the links to audio files, so you can go through and listen to both male, female voices. We'll actually we have a German male voice as well, so you can hear if he was a soft speaker. So it also gives that kind of nice little contrast in terms of like our male speaker in English, his voice was kind of big and booming. So get a little bit of contrast, can hear the difference of all different microphones. We'll write up kind of what we thought, what we think, how we did it, so you can compare. We did it in our sound studio, so that's another thing that we give. Like, hey, this is not a office setting with lots of noise. It's got pretty quiet noise. But we did do some sound sampling of just quiet, so you can hear the difference as well.
Yeah, I think you should use for your female UK voice. She has the most fantastic UK accent.
She does.
So reach out to her for your next audio tests if you're going on that UK sound. She's the one.
Absolutely. We'll have to work that out. Just bring everybody into our sound booth. Test it out.
Good stuff. So on the screen, Matt, do you have any questions for Diana?
I do, actually. And so one of the things that we're starting to do, and I'm going to put this in a very useful setting here, is that we're starting to do a lot more live events. Like I actually went live on Facebook for Camtasia for the first time. Guess it was earlier this week, just to be like, hey, this is what we did with microphones. And we're going to start doing more of that. So one of the things that came up is much more of a branding issue. So this is maybe not, I guess it does apply to training because we have to think about brand and that. So what are some of your thoughts about what should be part of a brand style guide or going live style guide for video? Like what pieces would you consider, Diana?
Yeah. So are you saying branding for the whole video? The video?
Well, branding in sense of we're going to go on live. And so what are the things that we should be considering about our brand that would make it so that if I do it or if my colleague does it or someone else does it, that we're being consistent, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, that's the most important thing is that they want to brand recognition. So even if I don't know if you can bring in music, if you have kind of the same, and we hear the music and we go, okay, that's what this is. And you have kind of that consistent logo. It's sometimes starting the same way because most people are going to watch the beginning. So that intro, you want to make sure that that's consistent with the title, how you do the title, how you do the color preparations. So, obviously TechSmith for you, for our other viewers, they can think about what their colors are for their company, but color it's subliminal, but it's powerful and we can remember it, right? And then I think just imaging too. So we all know Apple, right? We don't need to see the words Apple. We see Apple, we know exactly what that means. And over time, we get brand recognition where it just goes away. Starbucks is another great example. They don't even have to write STARBUCK. We see that emblem and we know exactly what that means. So you're building that. You would be building that with TechSmith too. So when you can show that, and then maybe just your employees, if you guys have the way that you're dressing, that it's recognized as TechSmith employee, whatever you want to send them message.
Can't get Marvel on there, right?
But whatever you want to send the message for. And then I think, so it's something that feels familiar and something that's fun. So you think about the tone too. So do you want this to be upbeat? Do you want it to be serious? Do you want it to be fun? Do you want it to be playful? Whatever that tone is that you choose, then you're consistent with that as well. So it takes a lot of careful thought, design thinking up front, and then you just deliver that consistently, like you said.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of those things are in our brand style guide for web properties and stuff like that, and some for video, for especially video that we're pre-producing. Mm-hmm. But we're thinking about a lot about live, Facebook Live and those types of things where you don't get the same benefit of being able to say I'm going to introduce a lower third here, or I'm going to add these things, and so it's okay, thinking about tone, voice makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think so. If I were to take all of the things, Diana, that you've mentioned today, I think each one of those things could be wrapped into the style guide, right? So for example, if you had different people doing your corporate videos, or even whether it's live and kind of off the cuff sort of speaking or whatnot, if they were all in the same studio, that means they're going to have the same background, right? So they're going to be cognizant of what's behind them, and you'll have that consistency because they'll be in the same place. Maybe if you have people out in the field or working from home or virtual, you get that consistency from making sure that they, wear their logoed apparel or something, just the little things like that. And then also to the scripting conversation, making sure that maybe there isn't specifics in the script, but just that I can outline. If you're going to go live, make sure you open with this, give your content, close with this, maybe something that simple. And then all of your videos end up having that consistency in the recording aspect of it. When that live ends up being around for a while, then people know, oh, this is kind of what I get. When I'm going to watch a TechSmith video, I know I'm going to, hear who the person is. I'm going to hear the content, and then I'm going to, and then they're going to wrap it up, and they're all going to stay within a certain time frame, right? So I think they all apply. It's just a matter of just writing it all down, right?
Yeah, and we've had some clients that have good success with taglines. So they come up with a short tagline, and they know at the end of every video, and you don't want to be cheesy, and it doesn't want to be fake. It has to be good, but it has to be something that captures what you're about. And so for our viewers today, think about if that relates to you too, having this sort of catchy tagline, and viewers get used to that, they get comfortable with it, and then they know, okay, that's the end of the video, because there's the tagline. But I think the other thing to keep in mind too is when we talk about backdrop, Brent, that you talked about, is it's really content driven also. So your backdrop, Matt's in a studio today, an audio studio, so that's different. But if you're doing like a video for learning and training, let's say you're working with sales folks and they want to find the best practice for the best pitch out there for a sales product. So maybe all the staff send in a video and they say, here's my sales pitch for this product. Here's my sales pitch. And then the manager looks at all of them and says, you know what, we're going to go with Joe's, and here's Joe's, and it's on video. Well, now I disseminate that, and we're using video for learning, right? We're all learning how to do the best pitch for sales. But my backdrop for that is going to relate to the content. So for example, if I work at Home Depot and I'm talking about how to build a fire pit, I'm going to want to be outside. I'm not going to want to be in a bedroom. So I think sometimes I see on YouTube, you folks see this too, and our viewers today see this, where you're in a bedroom and you're talking about XYZ. So think about, where should I be in an office for this content? What is the content? And then make sure your background is coherent and conducive.
Well, this is Video Friday, so Matt is perfect. Looks great with the squish, the sound.
I know, the soundproofing, exactly.
Everything. Yeah. Dr. Strange fits right into, so it's all good.
It's all good. Everything's good on Video Friday.
So I was going to mention, actually, so I way back in 2010, we started doing a live show before live shows that were a thing. And we did that, right? Like we actually, not a tagline at the end, but we would start the show because it would go live, 30 seconds, kind of like, here's what's coming up on this episode. And then it was always, you're on with the Forge. And that became kind of the sequence to know for like the producer to be like, okay, run the intro credit thing. But it became that tagline, and it does really help to kind of give this cohesiveness and give signals, whether it's a beginning or an end or whatever it might be.
Yeah, it's multi-purpose.
Exactly. And so that's everybody's homework today. All of you that are still hanging out today. And first of all, thank you all for hanging out with us for the full hour. Really, really appreciate that. So this is the homework. Everybody come up with a tagline for me, so I have something to say. I can close
at the end right now.
Right? Yeah,
say it right now.
Give me a tagline that I can close out the show with.
And I think Sam can write you a jingle to go behind it. So some kind of
I've got like I've got 2 or 3 of his jingles pre-recorded from L&D Talk, and I played them yesterday, and he was like, "Oh, but I say L&D Talk." I'm like, "Oh, that's right. Dang it, I can't use them." So I'm gonna have to re-record some new ones.
That's your homework with Sam. You and Sam can work on that one.
Yeah,
next time we want to hear the tagline with the jingle.
Well, we'll get him on live because he's really good at just asking the audience, what kind of music do you want to hear? And then he just wings it, and it's fantastic.
I know.
He does good work. But anyways, we're creeping up. Oh my gosh. Well, we were creeping up on 9 o'clock. Now we're over 9 o'clock. So I guess I should wrap this up and let everybody get a little bit late to their meetings. But Matt, we're going to do a giveaway. Yes?
Yeah. We'll do one.
Okay.
We'll do one this week, and then we'll figure out where we're going from here, because it feels like people like Camtasia. They want to win it.
People love it. So so Luis will do a drawing based on all the names, and we'll announce that and get that out. And I should have done this a lot earlier, Diana, but give us your promo again. What's going on? What can we give to people?
Yeah, no problem. So for the month of May, we're doing a 15% off on our video coaching services. So again, we work with you anywhere in the world, UK, anywhere in the world, and we use Zoom to video conference. And so it's 2 sessions, 30 minutes each, and 15% off. So if you book it and you schedule it in the month of May, then you get the discount. So all you need to do is go to our website under the contact tab, and then in the messaging, you just write discount May, so discount May, and then let us know what you're interested in preparing. So if your script isn't ready yet, we can help you with that. Or if you want to just talk about staging or even on-camera presence, we'll work with you in two sessions of 30 minutes each.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here. Thanks everyone for joining.
It's great. And so can we have you back sometime?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, we'll definitely get that on the books, because this is fun. I think there's a lot more we need to talk about that we didn't get a chance to hit up today. But this was fantastic start, and get everybody a chance to get to know you a little bit too. So good times. And Matt, thanks for hopping in.
Anytime.
Happy Arbor Day, everybody.
That's right. Happy Arbor Day. All right, I'm going to close down the video and end, and I'll do my ending wrap up stuff. But thank you guys so much. I'll close you down, and then I'll watch for a good tagline in the chat. If somebody comes up with something good, I'll use it. But thanks again, Diana.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. All right. That was a fantastic day. I love it. So, talking about video and how to present yourself on video, and, good thing I didn't have the black curtain of doom up behind me, because we would have just had all sorts of fun talking about how awful that is. But anyways, thanks again, Diana, for hanging out with us and talking about looking good on video. Since, listen, I keep saying this all the time, video is the future. Everything is going to be video, before we know it. And, the more ahead of the curve we are, and the more prepared we are going forward as training and learning and development professionals, the more impact we're going to have on the businesses that we work for, the more value add that we can create, and we can get that work done that we do in this business. So I hope everybody learned at least a little something today in this hour. And Luis, I think we're going to be doing a drawing, the Camtasia drawing, and we'll announce that on Twitter shortly afterwards, and figure out who our winner is today. And excellent. I see the taglines rolling in. Good stuff. If I get more than one, I'm just going to use them all. So it's all good. But again, let me just do a shout out to all of our new folks that have just joined us, and some of the new names that I see. Cara Beck. I don't think I've seen your name in here before. I think I've seen Barbara here before, but welcome back. Who else is there? Was some other folks. Christoph, good to see you. You look like a new avatar that I haven't seen before. Thanks for hanging out. Good to see you folks that I do know that only come every now and then. Good to see you. Fantastic. Good times. Listen, again, TLDC 18 coming up. Be sure to get registered for it. And remember, if you've got an extra couple bucks and you want to skip a cup of coffee, throw us a few pennies and help us finance this endeavor, if you will be so kind. We appreciate every little bit. So it also just kind of tells us that you appreciate what we're doing, and lets us know what we should be doing more of. And you can also do that by just contacting me directly and just say, hey, listen, we should be talking about this or that or the other thing. If you don't like something that we're talking about, or if you don't like something that's happening here on TLDChat, please reach out to me and let me know that as well. We are a community of training, learning, and development professionals that just love to hang out and talk shop and learn from each other and help everybody move our careers forward and move everything that we do in a positive direction. So thanks again for everybody for hanging out with us. Video Friday is always fun, as we've mentioned before. So you guys are all great. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And boy, let me see if I can run through these taglines. TLDChat, where learning gets real. And that is Number Wang. Or I could just say, everybody have a fantastic weekend. Adios.